Do you have any horror stories of stuff that's popped up on title where people have to come back in and use their title insurance?
In between the time that we did the title search and went to recording. So $150,000 home equity line of credit popped up on that property that they were selling.
Oh, wow.
Had I not caught that,
Dino, what are you doing? Get out of my seat.
So what's going on, guys, and welcome to another episode of On the Move with Matt podcast. Today I'm here with Kevin Wertz, and he is the co-owner of Quality Title. So thanks for coming on.
thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. So let's start off. How did you get to the area?
Well, born and raised in Front Royal. I've lived there my entire life. So tried going down to school down in the Harrisonburg area, and then I ended up finding my way back to going to Laurel Ridge or Lord Fairfax at the time, and then couldn't decide on what I wanted to do with my life, so I decided to get in real estate.
So did you start in the title company, or what led you to?
So actually, when I first got into the industry, I actually was looking to become a real estate agent. I went and took my certification class, and then before I went to take the state exam, I was offered a position at a local title company, and I ended up deciding to go in that direction. And
Right.
fast forward 13 years, and here we are.
And can you explain to our listeners exactly, so what does a title company do? Because I think a lot of people, I help them go under contract for a house. They know the lender gives them money and all that stuff, but then the title stuff is kind of like in the background and gets a little bit lost. So what exactly do you guys do?
So I like to explain it in 4 different steps. The roles and responsibilities of a title company. The first responsibility is doing the research on the property. So when you send over, a real estate agent sends over a ratified contract, we take the information off the contract for the subject property. We go down to the local clerk's offices and we do the research. So making sure that the current owner that's trying to sell that property is the actual owner to the property. What we're looking for is we're looking for liens, judgments, anything that has to do with the title to that subject property. And once our abstractor does that report or does the search, they then report it back to us and we type up what's called a title commitment, title binder, and we
Yeah.
send it over to the lender. So the first step of it is doing the research. Second step is the closing and post-closing part of the real estate transaction. So that's where I'm really involved in. So what we do is we communicate with all the parties that are involved, buyers, sellers, agents, loan officers, and we all get together and we try to get that buyer and seller to that closing table. So once
Nice.
everything, all the communication has been done and we have the information that we need from the lender, we then get to the closing aspect. We go over all the documentation with the buyers and the sellers, have them signed and notarized. And then once it's ready to be recorded at the local clerk's office, we then go down there, do a bring down to make sure that there's nothing new that's been added. People take out home equity lines. People have unpaid tax
Right.
bills that can be applied. So once we do that and it gets recorded, then we're able to disperse monies, which then leads us into our third step is the disbursement part. So we are the money person in the transaction.
Right.
So anybody that's involved, pest inspection companies, lenders, buyers, sellers, proceeds, agents, commissions, we send that out to all the parties.
Right.
And then our fourth responsibility is insuring. So we are insurance agents. We issue insurance policies. So the 2 types of insurance policies that we issue is the owner's title insurance policy, which is going to protect the owner's legal interest in the property. And then you have the lender's title insurance policy, which is going to protect the lender's interest in the property. So in a nutshell, what a title company does is the research, the closing, the dispersing, and the insuring. That's the
Right.
4 responsibilities.
And we go under contract and real estate agents, they have people that they refer out and all that stuff. What do you think separates your title company from other title companies?
I would say one of the main things that separates us is the communication. We have a system that we use that keeps everybody that's involved. They are getting notifications through our system that title search has been ordered, title search has been received, title search is back. So it's given that checklist of where we're at in the process, and it helps you as the agent, me as the title company, if we're getting those phone calls. Where's title work? Where's title work? Title work was sent 2 days ago at 11:17, and it was uploaded into our portal. So it really helps everybody be on the same page. And that's what's most important in a transaction is having all the players on the same page.
Right, exactly.
Another thing that I feel that separates us is offering in-home after-hour remote location closing services. So, that 9 to 5 work schedule is very tough to get off. Say you're a teacher, you don't have a very large window to take off unless you're going to take off a day of work. So
Right.
I'll go to them, wherever's convenient for the buyers, sellers, and the agents. You just let me know and I'll be there to sign the paperwork.
Right.
So I would say the communication part and then that extended service of remote locations after hours.
And do you guys have attorneys in your office as well, or just a title company?
We have attorneys on retainer. We don't have them physically in office, but we work with two attorneys. That one is local, and one is down in the Richmond area. To where in the event that we need legal counsel or they need an attorney's representation, we
Right.
have that accessible to them.
Okay. And when you're looking through the packet, so when everybody goes to closing, if they're getting a loan, then they have a packet from their lender.
Mhm.
Do you find that some are harder to explain than others, or people have more questions about certain ones?
It really just depends on the person. As far as like the lender's closing packages, they're really boilerplate documents. The only thing that ever changes on the documents are the names and the numbers.
Right.
So for the most part, they're pretty identical to one another. And then as far as it being difficult to explain, it's not necessarily difficult to explain. It's just getting the person that's sitting across from you at the closing table to understand it in a way that makes sense for them. So that's
Right.
something that I've always prided myself on is, okay, we're going to go with this route here. And if they're not understanding that, then we can go to this route and then we're going to get them to explain it. So it's just finding what works and what clicks for them.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've always been pretty good at is, breaking it down for somebody that's sitting across from me. And then they're not leaving the closing table of what did I just sign?
Right,
They're
exactly.
fully aware of what they've signed.
Right. Yeah. And I'm sure you have some people that are, where do I sign? Sign as fast as they can. You have to kind of bring them down and be like, we have to explain this to you.
Yes. Yeah.
And then some people that are, reading every single word line by line, and
Yep.
you're there all day.
Yep. So and once again, it's based off of the person. There's times where you're right. People come in that have done it a bunch of different times. How fast can I sign? How fast? Well, let me explain. That way I can say that you were fully aware of what you're signing today. So I'm not going
Right.
to draw it out. But if they want to sign quickly, I can make it a quicker closing. But we're still
Right.
going to explain exactly what that document is, and then that way they can never come back and say, "Oh, well, Kevin didn't explain it."
Right. Exactly.
And then occasionally you'll get somebody that no matter what you say, they are going to read it. And that's perfectly okay. You just usually the agent or the loan officer kind of gives me a heads up. So we try to be proactive. What we'll do is we'll send them the documentation to them prior to signing
Right.
and then let them know, hey, if you have any questions while you're reviewing this prior to actual settlement, give Kevin a call. Here's his cell phone number, and he'd be more than happy to go over it. So if someone tends to like to read a lot of the documents, we'll go that route. And then when they do come in, they'll have their questions ready for me right then and there. And you answer them, all the questions that they have. And then from there, they're ready to go. So
Right.
it's really just the person.
And are you doing closings on the weekend as well, or just Monday through Friday?
We can do closings on the weekend. However, it has to be if let's just use financing involved. So if there's a lender involved, as long as they are okay with a Saturday closing date and everybody's aware that we can't do anything with any monies until Monday
Right.
or whenever the clerk's office opens back up,
Yeah.
as long as the lender approves it, then we're good to go.
Right.
Cash transaction, yes, we can do the same thing. All parties just have to be aware that we cannot fund the loan or we can't record until Monday when the clerk's office opens.
Right. And you have 48 hours to do that, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So once settlement has occurred, meaning all monies have been received, all parties have signed, then that's when our 48-hour window starts ticking. So
Right.
we try to not use that 48 hours. We try to get it on record as quickly as possible so everybody can get paid and everything can be finalized. But there are cases where, you have to use that 48 hour just to be able to physically get it done.
Right. Just to clarify for people, so that's Virginia. Do you do West Virginia as well?
Yes, we do.
So can you kind of explain how that works?
Yep. So in Virginia, there's a 48-hour window before you have to get it recorded, and that means filed at the clerk's office. In West Virginia, once all documents have been signed and monies have been received from lender or the purchaser, you don't have to physically record it and be able to disperse monies in West Virginia.
Right.
Virginia, you have to be on record before you can disperse.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
So at the closing table, if we have everything ready to go, money's from the lender, I can actually hand out checks once everything's been signed and we have funding approval from the lender.
right. And so you said you were originally going to get into real estate and then kind of, led yourself into the title world. Do you like that decision? Are you like 100% on board with that, or do you think that you'll ever switch over to real estate?
No, I found my niche in the title world.
Yeah.
Of course, having more knowledge is always great. So I do use that, me going and taking the certification course and everything. I use that to my advantage just because I have to be great at what I do, but good at everybody else's because I get asked different questions. And if I'm able to answer those questions, I can. So the more knowledge, the better. But as far as where I'm at, I'm a title guy
Right.
for a life at this
Right.
point. So.
Yeah. And do you have any horror stories of stuff that's popped up on title where people have to come back in and use their title insurance?
Um, so I've been doing this for closing in on 13 years, and there's only been one time where there was a claim that got open, but it ended up getting resolved outside of making a title insurance claim. But one that comes to mind that could have been a title insurance claim had I not called it. So going back to after everything's been signed and we go to do the recording and we do that final bring down to make sure that nothing new has been added.
Mm.
There was one time where I was doing a closing. Everything went fine at the closing. We were ready to go. I went down to the clerk's office and I did a final bring down. And I found that the person that was selling the property took out a home equity line of credit against the property in between the time that we did the title search and went to recording. So $150,000 home equity line of credit popped up on that property that they were selling.
Oh, wow.
Had I not caught that, that had been subject to a title insurance claim. We caught it before we did the recording. We had to report back to everybody and say, hey, there's a $150,000 mortgage against this property that was not accounted for. So we had to put that on the closing disclosure, and that was deducted from their proceeds. So
wow.
so
Yeah.
it was one of those things. So that just goes to show the importance of, being diligent and making sure that you're dotting your I's, crossing your T's. So,
Right. Yeah.
but that would have been a subject to a title insurance claim.
Right. And I think it's good for people to know like what you guys do in the background because people take it for granted. They just think, I want to buy this house. My contract's accepted. My agent's helping me. I'm going to closing.
Mhm.
But they don't realize that there's a lot of steps involved in this and you have to make sure it's a clean title.
Yep. And it's very important, because you have a lot of, the good old boy system back in the day was a handshake.
Right. Yeah.
And things weren't filed properly. And that's why I always stress the importance of title insurance because it's protecting your legal interest in the property. And if you're, spending that type of money on, the biggest investment that you'll ever make,
Right.
you
Yeah.
want to make sure that you're protected.
Yeah.
And the beauty of the title insurance policy is that it's a one-time upfront payment. It's not a reoccurring premium. You pay it one time at closing and then you're covered.
Right. Yeah.
So it's people, it is an optional expense, and people do decline it. And, you have to have documentation signed that, hey, it was offered, but you're declining it. And, it's just one of those situations where you hope and pray that it never happens. But it's just like in any type of insurance. You carry health insurance just in case you break your arm or, God forbid, you get sick. You don't always use it, but when you do use it, you're glad that you have it. So I'd like to explain that to people that are purchasing these large investments of, hey, make sure that you're covered.
Right.
Is it going to happen? Does it happen often? Does it happen every day? No. But if
Right.
it does, you're protected.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
This episode is brought to you by, well, me. If you're looking at buying or selling in Virginia or West Virginia, I'm Matt Kilmer with eXp Realty, ready to help you with all your real estate needs. Whether it's finding the perfect home or selling your current one, I've got you covered. Reach out to me below and let's make a move. All right, back to the good stuff.
And in your search, do you ever find that like deeds pop up that were incorrectly written from the
Yeah,
previous purchase?
Yeah, there's scrivener's errors, from the attorneys that have prepared it. There's people, let's just undisclosed errors. So that's why we have to make sure that we're going through that search and that chain of title to make sure that it was handed down properly. We have to make sure that if it was a property that was inherited, that the list of heirs was in fact correct, because there has been times where it wasn't done properly, and the person that bought the house originally and then they go to sell it, we have to go back to the prior owner to find out where brother John was at,
Right,
because he
yeah.
actually needs to sign off on it, because if he doesn't, then that opens up a potential claim to the new owner for them to come back and say, hey, this is my property, I want it.
Right, yeah.
If you don't get that title insurance, all those legal fees to try to prove that you are the actual owner and that's your property,
Right.
you're coming out of pocket versus making a title insurance claim. So that's why it's important for us to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that when we're passing off the title commitment form to everybody and letting everybody know what's on title, everybody's fully aware of it.
Right. And how much does title insurance cost? Is it like based on the sales price or?
Yeah, so it's based off of the dollar amount of the sales price. So it's a formula that we have. I would say it's about close to 1% of what the sales price is. So if you're looking at a $300,000 purchase,
Right.
it's going to be about 1% of the 300,000.
Okay. So it just varies.
It does.
Transaction to
It does.
transaction.
Yes.
Yeah. And so you're a local guy. You've been here your whole life, you said?
Mm-hmm.
How is it important to you to like make relationships with the people you do transactions with, or how do you kind of go about that?
That's 100% how I have survived the 13 years of being in the
Yeah.
real estate industry, is relationships. It's the most important thing in this industry,
Right.
because people work with who they know, like, and trust. And if you don't know me, you don't like me, and you don't trust me, why would you want to use Kevin at Quality Title? So I like to build relationships, letting people know that, hey, when you give me the opportunity to be involved in your success, I'm going to make sure that I'm doing the best job that I can possibly do. And then if you need me for anything, I got your back.
Right.
And it goes, and it's even as simple as just somebody calling and saying, hey, do you happen to know a HVAC company? Yep, absolutely. I know someone that local owner that owns a HVAC
Right.
company. So it's not always, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be real estate related. It could just be based off of a friendship.
Right.
Hey,
Yeah.
Kevin, I'm having a rough day. I need to have a little pick me up. You got any quotes for me? You got it. You want to go out for a round of golf, go grab some lunch? Sure. Absolutely. So
Right.
that's how I've always looked at the real estate side of things, because title companies, they all do the same thing. We all do the research, we all do the closing, we all do the dispersing and the insuring. But what separates is building that relationship with your clients.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, pretty much your role is just kind of like ours. When somebody goes to buy a house, they can choose from hundreds of agents.
Mhm.
They can choose, probably not hundreds of title companies, but lots of title companies. So you kind of have to prove yourself. This is why you should work with us
Mhm.
versus somebody else
Yep.
type thing.
And that starts from building the relationship. Excuse me, building the relationship with the real estate agent or the loan officer, because a lot of people don't know when they get asked, hey, who do you want to do your closing? I'm not really sure. Well, here are my recommendations this is coming from the agent. You have A, B, and C company. I like to work with this company, but you have the option to choose. So building that relationship with that real estate agent or that loan officer to be on that list of 3, 5, whatever their list is,
Right.
that's, and everybody's not always built to work with one person. So, there's people that like using me specifically just because I'll go and do an after-hour closing.
Right.
It's fine with
Yeah.
me. But I've also built a lot of friendships in this industry to where they're like, Kevin's my guy. He's a good dude. Like working with him professionally, but he's also even better personally. So,
Right.
that's what it's all about, is having those relationships.
And kind of with giving people those options, do you find most people want to come to the office and have like a office atmosphere, or do they want you to come to their house or their new house?
It's kind of changed. So right now, the big thing for us is doing the closing right after the walkthrough. So people are going in, doing their walkthrough, let's say 10 o'clock. I come in at 10:30, 11 o'clock, and then we sign right there at the new house.
Yeah.
And the reason why a lot of people are jumping on that is because the it's a busy day. Everybody's wanting to move
Right.
in, move
Yeah.
out. So we try to take off as much stress as we possibly can.
Yeah.
We're eliminating that commute. Let's just use Frederick County for an example. Some parts of Frederick County, it could be a 30-minute trip into town.
Right.
So if I'm coming to you, you're not having to worry about bouncing back and forth and spending an hour or two just in drive time. Then that helps you out, or helps the client out, helps the
Yeah.
agent out. So right now, the big thing is a lot of people wanting to do it at the house right after the walkthrough.
Right.
Refinance transactions, they're typically done in the house. Just
Yeah.
people don't want to get off of work. I can meet them there at 5 o'clock, do the closing. Takes usually about 30 minutes, and then they're finished and ready to go and can still have their evening.
Right. And do you solely do just the closings, and then you have a whole team under you with processors and all that?
So my main role is the closing. We have processors at the office, and they're the rock stars. They're the ones that are the ones that keep the doors open, do the communication part of making sure agents, sellers, buyers, loan officers, they're all in the loop. Now I do that. I'm CC'd in on everything, so I'm seeing everything, but they're the ones that are doing the interacting and getting it to the closing table for everybody.
Yeah. I kind of look at them like an analogy, like an offensive line in football.
Mhm.
They're doing all the hard work,
Yes.
and they're not really praised for it at all times.
I
So yeah, processors working behind the scenes. I know the ones I work with, they work so hard.
yes.
They're always there to help me. Emails, calls, texts. It's a hard job.
They they're the foundation of the company. That is for sure.
Right.
They're the ones that keep the engine running. That's for sure. I applaud. I can't give them enough praise because
Right.
they're
Yeah.
my girls. They make sure, and they get it. They understand that some agents. We'll just use it on an average. Some agents will have an average of doing 3 to 5 deals per month. They have about 30 active files at once. So
Cool.
they're juggling all the time, and being able to work on one thing, and then they get a phone call about another, and they're putting what they were working on the shelf,
Right.
getting what they needed out as soon as possible, and then going back so just being able to time manage and be able to
Multitask.
to
Yeah.
multitask and operate like that. It's truly an amazing thing to
Right. Yeah.
watch. So can't give enough credit to those girls.
Right. Exactly. And do you guys use Qualia to keep all this stuff organized, or
Yep.
a different system?
No, we use Qualia. So that's the system that we use, and it's a very popular system now. And the system itself, they have Qualia Connect, which keeps more involvement, more engagement, and then they just have the system itself. So there's different steps to Qualia that companies use, and we try to have as much technology as we possibly can to evolve with the industry, and then also keep our clients and agents and everybody more engaged and more up to date of what they need to know.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's companies out there that don't have that system in play, and it's a very older school method. Nothing wrong with that, but I've found that a lot of people are more tech savvy than what
Right.
they think they are.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
a very user friendly system. So it's very, when we get a contract, we send out our introduction, and it's an invite through Qualia, and they plug in their email, they plug in their information, and from there it's just a simple checklist. And
Yeah. It's a much more organized way to capture the information. Because
100%.
I've definitely had closings where they kind of email me a PDF and say, fill this out.
Mhm.
So you're either plugging it in DocuSign and typing it in, or you're handwriting it and scanning it, and
Yep.
it's not effective.
It's not. It's a lot, like I said, it's a lot user friendly because it's running you through that checklist. What is the commission? Is there an admin fee? Is there, so it's already filled out. All you have to do is hit tab and you go
Right.
to the next slide
Yeah.
versus I've been a part of sending that document, fill it out, print it out, fill it out,
Right. Yeah.
scan it in. So
Yeah.
it's a lot easier process.
It's nice for the agents too, because I can go on my Qualia account and see, okay, like if I'm up at 10 o'clock one night, because that happens to agents all the time where we're like, oh, did we order termite inspection? Did we do this?
Hmm.
I go into Qualia and see like, oh, okay, they got that one. Everything's filled out.
Hmm.
We already have a scheduled closing time. I'm good to go.
Yep.
And then
Keeps you in check.
we can kind of, get a little bit of relief.
Yep. Yep. And no, and that's what it's all about. And, we're all human. We drop the ball. So, there's mistakes that happen,
Yeah.
but I feel like that system keeps us all in check and it gives us the opportunity to where, holy crap, did I forget that or not? Oh, you know what? I
Right.
didn't. I did fill it in. So
Yeah.
I do like that. So it's been a huge, I don't even know if it's a selling point. I would just say it's been a huge asset to me just to have that type of information available
Right. Yeah.
rather than having to search back in emails and, go the longer route. You're saving time and time's a precious thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
And I don't know if you have to coach people on this, but sometimes like I'll have to remind clients, hey, you're going to get an email from Qualia. This is a secure system where you send stuff back and forth.
mhm,
So don't send stuff that's secure, through an email to the processor.
yes.
Make sure you put it through Qualia.
Yeah.
And then you guys send all the settlement documents through there. So
Mhm.
you don't want anybody, I mean, there's a lot of like hacking going on now and all that.
Yeah.
It's a
So,
lot.
and we try to be as proactive and on top of those types of things as much as possible because it is a very huge part of the industry right now
Right.
is
Yeah.
the intercepting on personal information, bank account numbers, social security numbers. So I always make it a point to let my agents know, hey, if you have somebody that's a client that's not very tech savvy, we can work around this. Have them come into the office and we'll walk them through that.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and then, because not only are we obtaining the information that we need to process the file, but we're
Yeah.
also building that relationship with the agent and the people that are going to be signing with us because they see that, we genuinely care about you and we don't want you to send this information to where, God forbid, it gets intercepted and they hack into your bank accounts and
Right.
whatnot.
Yeah.
So going back to that, building the relationships, hey, not really understanding this Qualia thing, not a problem. Give Kevin a call. You guys will work on, he'll get you set up.
Right.
And that's what it's all about, because I try to take off as much stress as for you as the agent because you guys have a lot going on.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes you may not have time to be able to explain how Qualia works. Well, that's my job. I can do
Right.
that. I can take
Yeah.
that stress off of you to make sure that your client's taken care of.
Right.
So.
And kind of switching gears a little bit. So you've been here your whole life. What is your favorite part about living in the Shenandoah Valley? Or, I mean, you're raising your family here, so you grew up here.
Uh, it's a homey feel. It's just home. We like to go different places and travel, and by the week's end, whenever we're vacationing, I'm ready to come back home. So
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I would say as far as the most attractive part is the scenery.
Yeah.
Especially during the fall time, you drive up and down 81 or 66 and you look to your left and right and see nothing but beautiful mountains. And,
Right. Yeah.
so it's something that you don't really appreciate as much growing up, but the older that you get, the more that
Right.
this is home. You go to these other places and they don't have mountains or they don't have what we have. So
Right. Yeah.
to me, it's just been always a no place like home type deal. So
Yeah. I mean it's growing like crazy here, and I mean you doing all the closings, you can see like people are moving from Northern Virginia here or wherever it is. But I mean this is like a highly desirable location.
it is because it's affordable and a lot of people are able to telecommute with work and so they're able to work from home and have more of a house and at less cost versus going closer to the DC area, a $600,000 house in that area versus a $600,000 house in our area. It's a night and day, apples to orange comparison as
Right.
far as what size house and what type of house you're going to get.
Yeah.
and you're not having, you know, to have the hustle and bustle, high paced energy
Yeah.
all the time. It's a little bit more lax
Right. Yeah.
in this area, and that's built. That's what I'm built for, is more of the relax. Now, nothing wrong with the higher pace, but for me,
Right.
I
Yeah.
like the lower,
Right.
smaller pace.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And do you think I've heard a lot of talk about like remote closings and all that stuff, and it sounds like they're available in some places and not others.
Mhm.
Is that something you guys offer, or do you even have control over that? It's pretty much what the lender wants.
So as far as are you talking about like different like different states, or like if let's just so I
Like
look at it two different things. So a remote closing, you could be, let's just use, okay, they want to do Starbucks at 8 o'clock at night. Yes, we can do that. Now, as far as if it's someone that's buying a house in Virginia that currently lives in Florida, we can have that set up as well for a remote
where they can
closing.
do like a Zoom with a notary or something like that.
Yeah, so we have a couple different options there. We do have Brandy at our office. She is a Ron notary, where she can do electronical notaries, and it's set up almost as a Zoom call.
Right.
And she's able to go through the documentation still face to face, just
Yeah.
not, in front of each other physically.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so we do have that capability. And then through our Qualia system as well, we have access to closers all throughout the United States, to where if they need somebody to physically go there and sit down in front of them and sign the documentation, we can have that set up for them at no extra cost.
Yeah.
So it makes the process a lot easier for the new buyer or the seller, because they're not having to do a phone closing where I'm going over all the paperwork and then they have to go to the bank or find a local notary. We set all that up for them. So
Right. Because if you live in California, let's say, and you're
Mhm.
selling a house in Virginia and you can't physically fly back here,
Mhm.
then are you guys mailing them documents and then they get them notarized, or it's more of that Zoom thing?
Well, depending on the person, we can do the electronical signing, which has been a pretty big thing for us here recently. But if they want to go to the um, traditional method of sitting down in front of somebody and signing it there, we set all that up. So we don't even mail the documents. We don't even have to mail the documents to the actual seller. We can have it set up through our Qualia system, to where the person that's going and doing the closing
Right.
gets the documents, and then they meet that seller.
Okay.
Yep. So it streamlines the process for them, and they're also getting somebody there that knows how to facilitate a transaction.
Yeah. I can definitely see that becoming really popular too.
Yes, because the original method really was, okay, I'm gonna either email you the documents or I'm gonna FedEx you the documents. You print them out, you sign them in front of a notary, and then you FedEx them back to me.
Right.
That still is a method, but we're able to have people that are vetted through our Qualia system to play that person for us. So it's essentially
Yeah.
me going out to California type deal.
Right. Yeah.
And
a lot easier for
yeah.
the client. Yeah.
Yep. So it takes the stress off of the agent, takes the stress off of the clients as well.
Right. Well, yeah. Thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. If somebody wants to use your services, what's the best way to reach you?
I'm more of a give out my cell phone number kind of person. So my cell phone number is 540-692-0784. And then my email is kevin@closewithquality.com. And then we do have a website, qualitytitle.com, and you can get in all your information that you would need from us through there. But I'm a phone person, so just pick up the phone and give me a call.
All right. Perfect. Thank
Yep.
you. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yep. You're welcome.
All right.